There was once a forest that forgot how to bloom. It wasn't always like this. Emberfield had once been lush, green, and alive. The rivers had danced through the trees and the wind had carried music. But that was a long time ago. Before the fires came, every year the flames returned. Every year the forest lost something more. Animals stopped planting. They stopped building homes. They stopped dreaming. And slowly, hope itself withered, like the last leaf on a scorched branch. But far above the ashen trees, on the edge of a brittle cliff, lived a bird with a golden chest and a stubborn heart. Her name was Lara, and she still believed. Lara was small, too small to fight, too small to be noticed. In a forest where strength meant survival, she was just a flicker of color against the gray. She lived alone in a nest stitched from ash and broken feathers. She had no parents, no family, only stories. Lara had grown up listening to the elders speak of the days before the flames, of rivers that sparkled, of trees taller than clouds, of skies that didn't choke with smoke. But when she asked, "Why don't we bring those days back?" the elders only sighed. "Hope is dangerous," said Bennett, the old bear. "It gets you burned." "Dreams die in the fire," said Marla, the fox. Lara said nothing, but every night she stared at the stars, wondering what would happen if one small creature didn't give up. It started with a crack in the sky, dry lightning. Then came the smoke, rising like a signal of doom. Within hours, fire licked the southern ridge. "Run!" shouted the squirrels. "Fly!" screamed the crows. Animals scattered like leaves in a storm. Mothers carried their young. Birds abandoned nests, and even the strong fled. But Lara stood still. She saw it. In a broken log near the blaze, 3 baby squirrels, left behind in panic. They squeaked, small bodies trembling, helpless. Something inside her snapped. She didn't fly away. She flew toward the fire. The river had shrunk into muddy puddles. Lara dipped her beak in the shallow water, scooped a drop, and flapped toward the blaze. Her wings burned, her eyes stung. But she reached the log and dropped the water. Hiss! The fire laughed in return. She turned, coughed, and flew back to the river, again and again. Each time, one drop, one hope. From above, 3 crows watched amused. "Foolish," said one. "Is she trying to flood the fire? She'll die before she makes a dent." But she kept going. By evening, her feathers were charred and her wings trembled. But the baby squirrels were still alive. Other animals watched from afar, whispering, "Madness, waste of energy. Fire cannot be fought with hope." But someone was watching more closely. A young hedgehog named Finn. He was shy, often ignored, but Lara's defiance stirred something in him. That night, while others slept in fear, Finn crafted a tiny water carrier using a leaf and a thorn. At dawn, he joined Lara, one drop at a time. By the 3rd day, Lara could barely stand. Her breath was ragged, but when she crawled to the puddle, she saw something stunning. A line, foxes with folded leaves, rabbits with acorns full of water, a turtle carrying drops on his shell, even a crow with a wet sponge. They followed her path, quietly, steadily. The fire still roared, but now it had resistance, not from force, from unity. Hope was no longer a flame, it had become a storm. On the 5th day, the wind changed. Embers leapt. The fire surged toward the center of the forest, toward the nests, toward Lara's cliff. Animals screamed. Water was no longer enough. Lara, gasping, flew one last time, not to the river, but to the top of the tallest tree. She screamed, not with fear, but with rage, a sound so raw it pierced through the smoke, a sound of defiance, of heartbreak, of refusal. Then she fell. The sky that once ignored their cries finally listened. Thunder, lightning, and then rain. Heavy, relentless, beautiful. It poured like tears. It smothered the fire. It kissed the ashes. And when it touched the ground, it didn't burn. It bloomed. Pain shot through her wings. She couldn't move. She lay in a nest, not hers, lined with moss and guarded by animals from across the forest. Finn sat beside her, his tiny paws on her feather. "You did it," he whispered. "You made them believe." Tears fell from Lara's eyes, not from pain, from joy. Rain became routine again. The river danced. Flowers bloomed. Trees sprouted with green that glowed like fireflies. And every year, on the day the fire first came, animals gathered by the river. Each brought one drop of water, not to fight a fire, but to remember the day one bird taught them how to believe again. Lara could no longer fly as high. Her wings never fully healed, but she didn't need to. She had soared higher than any bird, into hearts, into legends. A statue stood near the river, a bird with a drop in her beak, facing the sky, and below it, words carved in bark. One drop may not stop the flame, but it may awaken the storm. Epilogue, for those who still believe. And so, the story of Lara was passed from beak to paw, from whisper to roar. To those who feel too small, to those mocked for caring, to those told their efforts are pointless, this story is for you, because sometimes one drop is enough.